The following story may not be appropriate for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to Whisperwood Stories and to Spooky Season. This month, I have a story that I wrote for you. I hope that you enjoy. Just like last year, my Patreon will be one part ahead. So check that out if you're interested. Let's begin, shall we? Express Static. Part 1.
There's no need for everyone to be so afraid of new technology.
Fred, the voice on the radio, said in bewilderment.
Express Electronics has been nothing but kind and generous to our whole city and the world, for that matter. Wouldn't you agree, Harper?
I raised an eyebrow as I drove to work, glancing from the road to the radio. The second host seemed hesitant when she answered.
Oh, well, Fred, I personally don't blame people that much. We've always liked to speak openly here on your show, right? It wouldn't be the first time something has gone wrong because profit was prioritized over safety. Remember when Express commercials?
Fred interrupted. The show was cut off suddenly. There was brief static before cheesy music started playing in the background.
Harmless and clean, it leaves a great sheen. Try Bustling Bubbles today. It cleans your car, it cleans your kiddo, it cleans anything.
I sighed, tapping my steering wheel as I waited at a stoplight. I don't know why I kept listening to this show, the Fred Fast Talk Show, except maybe to make myself angry. Maybe it was because I always felt guilty when I heard other stations bringing up the real concerns about Express's actions, especially considering my involvement. I wish I could escape all of this. I shoved away that thought quickly. After a further slurry of brain-dead advertisements, the talk show came back.
Hi. Sorry for that sudden break, folks. I think we had a slip in the back room. Someone throwing banana peels back there?
A cartoon sound played, followed by an awkward silence.
Well, were this my night show, I'd expect a sea of laughter about now. But I'm sure all of you are laughing in your cars. Speaking of my television night show, make sure to tune in tonight at 8 p.m. Central for the unveiling of Express's newest global innovation. I'm honored to be the choice delivery method of this exciting announcement. Remember, if it's not Express, it's not the best. See you tonight!
A pre-recorded cheering track played as the outro jazz blared, and we were back to yet more commercials. I laid against my headrest. My workplace was in the big city. We had our own parking garage at the law firm of Jensen and Juilliard. But don't take the partner spots, or even God himself can't save you. Speaking of parking, I was usually one of the last ones to arrive in the morning, which meant all of the good spots were taken in the upper floors. On top of that, I was even more late because of damned construction. I simply refused to get up at 3 a.m. to save myself a small walk. So I had to park, as usual, in the ever-dark third-floor basement. It even had flickering lights in some places. Dramatic. I closed my eyes as I mentally prepared for the day. It was always the same feeling. Not wanting to be home, and not wanting to be here. Either way, there was bound to be something unpleasant. I shut my car door and adjusted the purse over my shoulder. My heels clicked against the concrete as I walked, echoing amongst the empty darkness. It was so dim, in fact, that I thought about pulling out my phone's flashlight. I always felt some degree of nervousness walking through here. It didn't help that I already felt nervous about other things. For example, I was one of the lucky few that was on the partner track, being trained directly under Miss Jensen, whose mother was a founder of Jensen and Juilliard. I wanted this. I needed it to stay that way, and yet...
The static is coming. The sickness will infect us all.
I stopped walking. Blinked. I looked behind me, then to the side, but it was still just as dark as before. I couldn't see a thing.
Hello?
My call echoed. One of the nearby fluorescent lights flickered on. I turned and saw someone lying against a chain-link fence. A fence that protected some equipment or other. The person that sat there was an old woman with gray, wily hair wrapped in third-hand coats. My briefly racing heart slowed. I knew her. I took a calming breath, then walked towards her.
Miss Allybrow?
The woman looked up at me with an expression of confusion. It slowly honed in and shifted into a toothy smile.
Elaine? Is that you, dear? Miss Allybrow, you shouldn't sleep here,
I replied.
If the maintenance man or garage manager catches you, it'll...
The woman lurched up suddenly, grasping my hand tight. As her eyes widened, her expression changed from smiling to warning.
The static comes, Elaine. Stay away from the screens. Be careful what you wish for.
I bit my lip. It was never easy to see someone forced to sleep on city sidewalks. But it would be worse if she was caught here.
Go to the shelter on 5th. They should be able to room you for a while, okay?
The woman slowly said again. In a gesture, I held out my hand instinctively, thinking I'd be helping her up. But she handed me something instead.
The time draws near. Keep this close, Elaine, and you'll be safe. Say hello to him for me.
She stood up by herself and shuffled into the darkness. I watched her go. Eventually, I couldn't see her anymore. In looking down at my hand at what she had given me, I was confused. It was some strange piece of metal. Small, circular, intricate, and about the size of my palm. I wasn't sure if it was a piece of something down here, so I packed it into my purse and continued towards the elevator. I could hand it off to maintenance later. Onwards to my workday. My reflection eyed me back as I stepped up to the shiny chrome doors of the elevator. The soft dings echoed as it passed each floor to eventually arrive. The doors closed behind me as I pressed the button for my floor. After a moment, I frowned. The elevator wasn't moving. Damn thing, I muttered. The button clicked as I smacked it a few more times. The light buzzed then, flickering on, and we were finally moving. I closed my eyes with a sigh. This ride was always the last piece before the chaos. In the blackness, I felt a strange sensation, a fuzzy headache in the back of my skull. I frowned as I exhaled. Damn, this one hurt. Keeping my eyes closed only seemed to make it worse, so I opened them and took a pill from my purse. That's right, no water bottle. I was a pro. The TV mounted in the elevator flickered on. I glanced up at it. It was only filled with static, buzzing, but I thought I saw a flicker of a face. I tried to study it closer. Then suddenly, the doors opened. There she is! My long stare jolted to surprise as my assistant, Jack, said this. Arms outstretched. He had been standing there, waiting by the doors. Jesus, are you trying to give me a heart attack? I replied. We entered the bustle of the firm together. Phones ringing and answered. People carrying more paper than should be humanly possible. And of course, an armada of corporate interior design. It was quite the contrast to the dingy parking garage. I was convinced that the designers had simply purchased all of the gold accents that Target had to offer. Jack looked at me conspiratorially. "Do you have any pressing work this morning?" "Not at the moment. Why?" "Then we're going to have breakfast in the food hall, and you're going to tell me all about it." "I already had breakfast." He gave me a frank look. "Okay, maybe I didn't," I muttered. "But I don't know what you're talking about anyway." "Oh, sure. Who would have anything to say about how you saved Express Electronics single-handedly, becoming the favorite person of—" "All right, fine," I interrupted. "But you're buying, got it?" We walked through the extensive corridors until we made it to the food hall, passing many other paralegals on the way. It wasn't anything too large, and we shared it with all of the businesses in this building, but it was nice. A coffee place, a sandwich joint, and a few other fast food locations were set up throughout. The seating was in the middle, the businesses on the edges. One particular restaurant specialized in breakfast, so we ordered our food from there. Jack did actually pay for me. To him, though, this was likely a symbol that he'd effectively paid for my story, too. "So, tell me everything," he said eagerly, having vacuumed up his breakfast to ask questions faster. I was still on mine. "It was nothing, really," I muttered between bites of an egg sandwich. "Come on, you've got to tell me where you get that courage." I sighed. "Really, it's not a big deal. I just made a casual suggestion during a war room. I can't really talk about the details, but please, just a casual suggestion? You and Miss Jensen were presenting to the admin? It was all over the schedule for that conference room." I glared. "Do you actually want to hear the story or not?" He shrugged and sat back, zipping his lips. I continued after another bite. "Like I said, I can't talk about the details, but I reread the case files for a couple of days before I saw an opening." "And?" Jack chimed. "And, yes, my strategy caused Judge Adamson to grant us a stay." A stay on a class action suit this big? Even Adamson must know that they'll just be able to launch it now with no problems before any rope barricades come up. Yep. Not to mention that Adamson was our preferred judge, I thought. Jack rolled his eyes. "Just admit it. You blew their socks off with your brilliance, and now you're leaps and bounds up the partner track. Rumor has it that Miss Jensen is pretty pleased with you." I looked up at that. "You think so?" "Honey, you've already passed the glass ceiling." He leaned in to whisper. "I also heard that Miss Jensen has someone important she wants you to meet today. It's been pretty hush-hush, but everybody saw the unmarked black vehicles pull up." I continued with my breakfast without a reply. Jack seemed to study me, as if he had just noticed something. "Are you okay, Elaine?" "Yeah, I've just been having strange dreams lately." Jack shook his head. "Whatever you say." As the day went on, Jack ended up being exactly right. After we had finished breakfast and got back to work, lunch came and went. Then a doe-eyed new hire came to tell me that Mrs. Jensen wanted to see me in her office. Despite my good standing, I couldn't help but feel nervous. Jack was usually right about rumors. So what important person did Miss Jensen want me to meet? I rode the admin elevator to the uppermost floor, the 20th floor. It was also the nicest looking area of the building. Garish carpets for an office, plants, large paintings on the wall, the whole nine. It was down the hall and up to a reception desk to reach my destination. The woman sitting at that desk stood with a smile. "Mrs. Edwards? Please wait here while I check if they're ready for you." I heard muffled laughter from the office as I sat down. The receptionist waited a polite amount of time after the sound before dialing her phone. I shuffled nervously.
Mrs. Edwards is here. Yes, I'll send her in.
She turned back to me and smiled again.
They're ready for you.
The receptionist stood, walking forward to open the door for me. I took one more second to breathe before standing up myself. Miss Jensen's office was filled with modern decor, placed throughout to give the room fluidity. Wavy wooden tables with glass tops, short, square couches that could in no universe be comfortable, and of course, quite the city view. Even though it was only about 20 stories up, it was still impressive what you could see from all the way up here. I swallowed. I felt like a lamb in the den of a lioness. No, a mouse in the den of a lioness. I could no longer delay with distraction once I looked toward the great oak desk in the back. There were 2 people there. Miss Jensen, of course, her professional air buttoned up into a custom suit, but there was also a tall man with a permanently smug expression. His hair was slicked back, clothes expensive looking if not very stylish. Miss Jensen smiled as she turned to greet me.
Why, hello again,
she said as her receptionist closed the door. I crept forward warily.
How are you, Elaine?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm also good. Good weather we're having.
Good, I muttered. Miss Jensen was about to reply before the man stepped forward, laughing. Not one for small talk? I get it, me neither. Let's skip to business then. The man shook my limp hand. So then, you're the hero? It must have had quite the help me expression because Miss Jensen stepped in to save me.
Oh, where are my manners? Elaine, this is Bobby Dixon, the CEO of Express Electronics. Mr. Dixon, this is Elaine Edwards.
That information did not save me at all. Bobby, please. Mr. Dixon was my father. A silence stretched on as we all stared at each other. Was this the moment where I said something? Worry clawed at my gut as I reached for words. This guy was the head of Express? That somehow made terrible sense. I clamped that thought shut before I accidentally said it out loud.
Wow. Hi,
was all I managed. Bobby raised an eyebrow at me. It's all right. People are always stunned by me, even when my dad was still in control. So, you are the hero then, yeah? You made that iron-solid defense for me.
I did,
I said, managing a small smile. Well then, you don't seem too proud of it, Bobby said.
Sorry if we seem tired, Miss Jensen interjected. We've had several long days making sure everything was in order for you. We may have stalled things, but we've still got a battle plan to make.
Understandable. Well, as a reward, I suppose I should give you ladies a little hint. We've been testing EE already in pockets throughout the city. We think this will be a great launch. The markets just can't predict my genius, I tell you.
EE?
Miss Jensen smiled as Bobby laughed hard at his own joke.
That's great, Bobby. I'm sure EE will be remembered for generations to come,
Miss Jensen said. Bobby paused, then looked at us both pointedly. You know what? I think I'm suddenly into lawyer ladies. What would you two say we all go and get a drink? My treat? We can ditch this snobby place for somewhere with liquor. We can even take my sweet red Ferrari. Bobby waggled his eyebrows. Miss Jensen chuckled with the artificial flavor that only an uncomfortable corporate bigwig can manage.
We're, of course, flattered by the offer, but unfortunately, we're both married,
she said. Bobby shrugged. Doesn't have to mean anything, come on. Based on your looks, you probably haven't slept with your husbands in, 10 years? They're probably salty old men anyways. Could be fun. Neither of us said anything. Bobby frowned. But suit yourself, I guess. I appreciate your hard work. Keep at it, sport. He patted my shoulder and strode off. We can have a bright future together. Anyways, I better get going. I heard him mumble to himself as he exited the door. Stiff bitches. Miss Jensen and I exchanged a glance. So, Elaine, she said quickly, as if to wash the interaction away. Any new ideas on our next strategy? The CPA isn't going to just roll over. We sat and talked legal jumbo for a while. I was right. The green, upholstered, very square chairs were definitely not comfortable. Still, it was easier to just talk to Miss Jensen than Mr. Dixon, but I was still nervous. She was kind of an assertive presence. She showed me further details of the case, and I made more suggestions. She commented on how young blood always had the sharpest eye for this, and even told me a little about herself. You know, I didn't want to be a lawyer originally, she said. Really? But you're so good at it, you really harness the courtroom. What did you want to be? She chuckled, smiling. Don't laugh. An actress? I smiled. I could see that. I mean, the courtroom is pretty much a stage. Eventually, I left her office to do my own work. Pretty soon, though, the workday ran out. My only option was to go home. To my surprise, Miss Jensen caught me again just as I was taking the elevator. Oh, Elaine? Yes, Miss Jensen? Sorry about him earlier. Just try to ignore it. I gave her a fake smile, nodded, and kept on. My thoughts were cloudy as I drove back home. That damn construction was causing bumper-to-bumper traffic downtown. It gave me plenty of time to think, I guess, whether I wanted it or not. Also plenty of reasons to honk at other drivers.
We've already got a lot of speculation on Express's newest project,
said Fast Talk Fred.
Lots of posts on Fred's forum about how positive everyone is. Of course, there are a few misguided stinkers, but we all know they're just trolls anyway. What do you think, Jenny? Well, Fred, I know we can't say much about the new innovation just yet, but I can tell you this, folks. I've been lucky enough to have a sneak peek, and I must say, it'll change our lives forever. Express Electronics is truly a boon.
A strange, chilly sensation crawled up my neck. Must be that damned headache from earlier. I guess the acetaminophen had worn off. I rubbed my temple with a free hand.
That's great to hear, Jenny, and I agree. You know, while we can't tell you the secret just yet, I can offer you all another surprise. Thanks to Express Electronics becoming an affiliate of my shows, we're prepared to offer you a special 20% discount across Express's entire website. You heard that right, folks. They're so excited about their new product that you get a new phone, television, or whatever you need in a cup.
Pre-recorded clapping played.
You know, my teenage daughter has been begging me for her own phone. How do we get this discount, Fred? Glad you asked, Jenny. Just use code FRED at online checkout or even in store. That's code FRED. Really? That's great. You know what else is great?
There was a pause before Fred replied. His words were slow and dark.
Why, yes, Jenny. I do.
The pressure in my head built. I winced as I reached towards the radio dial. Maybe turning down the volume would help. Guess I was going to have to take another pill when I got home. I was so focused on the pain in my skull that I didn't notice until moments later that the radio was silent. Silent for several noticeable seconds. Only static hummed, all until one sentence was spoken.
Elaine wants to escape.
My car came to a slow halt at a red stoplight. Had I heard that right? I sat there in confusion, breathing shallow breaths. I saw something out of the corner of my eye. A smiling, familiar face peering into my window. I gasped as I flipped sideways to look at it, but something changed. Everything changed. Like watching the sky, then being forced underwater, my vision darkened. I was going deeper, deeper until no light was reaching me. When that darkness faded, things were different. Terror filled me as I looked outside of my windshield. The city was gray, full of abandoned vehicles and so empty. I tried to open my door to see what was wrong, but it locked itself. That talk show host spoke from the radio again, his voice low.
He'll be a real asshole tonight. He'd rather ignore you than deal with what he's done.
Fred tisked.
There's no helping you, is there? A case as lost as a ship at sea. At least, not until EE helps us all. Helps you, even though you don't deserve it. But you do deserve everything else, don't you?
That haze in the back of my head seemed to stab at me, soft, then sharp, pulling me painfully backwards.
The doors will open and the world will be changed. A gray world and a gray mind overtaken by its own greed. Watch the screens, Elaine. Watch the screens.
Fred began to laugh, a laugh that echoed darkly. That laugh began to sound strange. It burbled oddly into a whining sound that pushed at me, louder, louder. Then I recognized it. I blinked. The sound was a car horn behind me. I gasped shakily for air as though I really had been underwater. The pain faded. The radio continued jauntily.
That's right. And I've just got to remind you folks that it's site-wide. Don't forget about their in-store trade-in value.
The world was back to normal. Crowded sidewalks, bustling traffic, and colors. No more of that lifeless gray. The car behind mine honked again, the driver shouting angrily. I waved dismissal as I continued through the now green traffic light. I glanced down at the radio again.
I just can't believe how gracious they are. Express is true.
I turned the radio off. Thank you for listening to Whisperwood Stories. If you enjoyed, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe down below. Do you have a story that you'd like me to read here? Consider commenting or sending it to whisperwoodsubmissions@gmail.com. The story in this video was read with the author's permission. Me. Thank you again for listening, and be sure to check out the links below, where you can also read the story. Want to support me? Check out the links below where you can leave a tip if you wish. And remember, don't let the shadows get too close. Good night.